Welcome back, boxing fans, to another great show with Sean on boxing and Lily. You would think Lily never moves from that spot. So today we're talking about the best heavyweight era ever. And this is a little controversial. A lot of people that weren't born in the late 60s and early 70s think about that generation as the best ever, just based on news articles and secondhand information and things of that nature that they actually grew up listening to. But for somebody that lived through a lot of it, uh, I can honestly say that this era now is special. And people may not be giving it the credit it deserves, but we're going to talk about that today. Feel free to leave your comments in the comment section below. Chat up. Tell me why you think one generation is better than the other. And did you watch it? Or is this just you repeating or parroting what other people have said? The one or JA is in the house. What's up? So let me just upload my little PPT and then we can get on with this. So tonight we have the big fight, Eubank versus Ben. Apparently the weigh-in today, I didn't see it. I was just listening to my phone when I was walking the dog. Apparently both guys look good. Ben looks really big, has definitely filled out for this middleweight weight. And apparently Eubanks looks good, shredded, looks good. So I think my prediction is going to come through 100% correct. Eubank with the stoppage. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hollow Ninja, what's up? Thank you very much. What's up, Sean and Lily? Jesus Christ is Lord. She is. And unfortunately for this global fucking situation we're living in, it looks like people are really against Christianity. Imagine being so pro-Muslim, but anti-Christianity. That shit boggles my mind. Of course, I'm much more of a Buddhist than anything else, because Buddhism has never created wars. Buddhism has never tried to take over lands. So, in that sense, there's a reason why I've always been more favorable towards Buddhism. Even though I think Jesus and Buddha, simpatico. It's just unfortunate how religions are used in manipulating populations. But David, Sugar Nunez, Navarrete on DAZN, that's a great fight. Another great unification fight. Obviously, we have that fight for unification. We obviously have the other big fight with Xander Zayas and Abbas Abu for unification as well. So it's great when unification fights are made. As boxing fans, this is what we want. We want to see the best fight the best, which means champion v. champion. Jews hate Christians more than Muslims. Wake up, Sean. I can't imagine why the Jews would hate Christians more than Muslims, since Christianity has sort of allowed Judaism to be a strong part of its foundation. All banking was controlled by the Jews. So, based on Christianity, where it was illegal to lend money, there was an obvious relationship between them. How one could obviously parasite off the other and get rich in the process. Not to criticize Judaism. I'm just pointing out that's what they did. And since many Jews wrote the Bible as well, you can understand why maybe it was done the way it was. But I'm not religious. I'm not anti-religious. I think if people need religion to feel whole and secure, I appreciate that. I just wish people would respect other religions. That's all. I respect every religion. I expect religions to do the same. Unfortunately, Muslims don't seem to respect any other religion. It's in their book. Oh, I also heard Iglesias is going to fight Bruno Suarze. I guess that's a good fight, only in the fact that Bruno obviously stops Munguia, so now he has a bit of name recognition. So making that fight would, kind of put Iglesias on the map, because right now people know he's a good fighter, but most North Americans have never even seen him fight. J.A., have you ever seen Iglesias fight? Do your research. I don't care that much, J.A. As I said, I'm not religious. I respect every religion. My issue is when religions cannot accept others. That's it, whether that's Christians accepting others or Jews accepting others or Muslims or Buddhists or whoever. I think if you are religious, you should be understanding and accepting of other people. Not necessarily walking in their footsteps, but understanding that's their path. Nothing to do with you. Sawache is about that life. Hey, for him, I mean, it's a smart move, even though it's not really a big payday, right? You figure there must be potentially bigger money fights to be made at 168 pounds than Jaime Munguia. Maybe a bounce back fight with Canelo Alvarez, who's going to need an opponent, right, to bounce back against after the Bud Crawford loss. What do you make of Golden Boy trying to ram a Benavidez Zurdo fight down our throats? In all honesty, I mean, I don't have a problem with that fight at all. In reality, I think Benavidez is probably a cruiserweight more than he ever was a 168 or 170-pound fighter, kind of like Zurdo. So, time has finally pushed them into the weight division they should be in. The only problem I have with that is both of those bitches look like they have no interest in fighting Opataya. Right? So, if you're going to fucking move to cruiserweight, that's fine. You can fight Zurdo next. But you better be fighting fucking Jay Opataya afterwards. Especially after all your beaking and lipping. And the irony is you move to light heavyweight, you get a fucking vacant title, you fight a Joe Schmo opponent, which is a good opponent, but let's be real. It's not one of the best guys in the division. It's not a Bivol or a Better BF. You don't fight Better BF and Bivol, and then you move to cruiserweight. At least Zurdo fought Bivol, right? He literally tried to fight one or the best fighter in the division. What did Benavidez do? He fought a retired fighter. He fought a fighter that he pulled up from 168. And then he fought a fighter who's lost every big fight he's been in. And I don't know if he's going to win. So, I can't be excited about the way David Benavidez rolls. I listened to him in an interview this morning. And he was talking about how it's his dream to unify. Well, if it was your fucking dream to unify, why didn't you unify against Caleb Plant, Callum Smith, or Zurdo Ramirez at 168 when you were literally all fucking world champions at the same time? When Caleb Plant's team was trying to jam that unification fight down your throat, your team literally fucking ducked that shit. Ducked it, right? Only for you to lose your title again and then once again. But your dream is to become unified. And then it's like, it's unfortunate I'm not getting a Bivol Better Be a fight. Well, you didn't want to play ball with them. Quote unquote, I'm not interested in fighting in Riyadh and working with Turki Al-Sheikh. Yet now you're going to be fighting in Riyadh working with Turki Al-Sheikh. Like, these guys are so full of shit. They contradict themselves every time they open their mouths. It's almost as if they're fucking John Boxing undercover. I hope Benavidez gets KO'd next week just to see Mirage reaction. That would be fucking beautiful. My best weekend probably of 2025 would be seeing fucking Devin Haney knocked out by Brian Norman, and then fucking David Benavidez knocked out by Anthony Yard. That would be fucking the perfect ending to 2025. Man. If this will make me religious, do it. And tell me what religion you want me to follow. Whatever it may be, I'm down. Love your neighbor as you love thyself. That's it. That is what people should be doing. You don't need to be hating people just because they do something different than you. You don't like the barbecue in the backyard, they like the barbecue. Okay, you don't barbecue, right? But don't impinge on other people doing what they want to do, even if you don't agree with it. Benavidez was ready to fight Bivol. Not his fault it didn't happen. Bullshit, J.A. He fucking could have worked with Turki Al-Sheikh, knowing what the plan was, and moved himself right into position for that fight. But he chose to do the bitch way, which say that I'm not going to work with Riyadh Season. I'm going to make a Callum Smith with DAZN, which didn't work. So then he comes crawling back on his fucking hands and knees, fucking begging for a fucking fight from Turki Al-Sheikh. That's exactly what happened. And now he's talking about going to fight Zurdo. So, it's Bivol and Better Biev's fault. You're getting too fat for 175 already. Okay. Uh, yeah, I'm kind of off the Benavidez hype myself. The Morel win didn't age good, and I know you are pretty high on Morel. Oh, I like Morel. I was very disappointed with his performance against the Russian guy. I thought he deserved to lose that fight. He looked very human. Role switch, Virgil Ortiz is ducking the fuck out of Boots. Yeah, but those guys that went back and forth, right? Like, obviously, we know the fight was ordered before, and Boots walked away from it because he wanted to become unified. And now, obviously, Ortiz looks like he's ducking it because he wants to fucking get a big pay-per-view fight instead. This is the problem. This is why Turki Al-Sheikh don't want to work with fucking guys like Virgil Ortiz, Tim Tszyu, right? Because these guys, they don't want to make big fights. They want to maneuver themselves. Ortiz is going to maneuver himself just like fucking Mikey Garcia and probably do the exact same thing in his career. Not really accomplish too much, get paid a lot of money, and then retire early, right? I like Yard. I think he's a good fighter. It is kind of shady, though, that they would have Rob Beterbiev of that stoppage hadn't happened. Oh, it was a competitive fight, but I don't think Yard was going to win, that's for sure. Here's an interesting fight, Naji Lopez versus Benavidez. Laugh out loud, who you got? At this point, you got to favor Benavidez. Naji Lopez is kind of like the guy that just got beat last weekend, right? He's a pro box fighter who's looked good against pro box competition. But once he stepped up and takes on world level competition, he probably will be exposed. Naji Lopez has looked good lately. He has, and he's still pretty young. Junto training with Cardenas. Nice. And that's kind of surprising because, remember the rumor was that on that card, Japan versus the world, Junto was going to fight Cardenas, a common opponent. And obviously that would be a big marketing boost for the Junto Anui fight. But let's get on with this. I'm hearing Bud versus Adames in March. That would be fucking sensational. If Bud Crawford fights Adames in March, man, really nobody can say anything negative about Bud Crawford fucking ever, because he's doing exactly what he should do. He should fight Carlos Adames to win that WBC title so he can then fight the winner of Janabek and Lara for undisputed to become a fucking 4-weight undisputed champion. Who in the fucking history of boxing could ever imagine somebody doing that? Oh my God. And people still hating Bud Crawford, primarily black YouTubers. They had Yard up on the cards. I thought Beterbiev was winning pretty handily. It was a competitive fight, but competitive does not mean you're winning. It just means you're giving it a good fight, right? Benavidez ruins careers. Plant, Morel aren't the same. What are you talking about? Plant, if anything, was ruined by Canelo. Stop. Oh my God. J.A., why do you want to be a dick rider to a fighter so bad and say outlandish shit? Oh, and Andrade, what did he ever fucking do? Nothing. Never beat a champion in his life. Never fought a champion. Evan will still find a way to trash him. I was going to say, look forward to Evan fucking still trashing Bud Crawford, even if he does that. It's crazy. But here, obviously, we have 3 historically great heavyweights from different eras. Ali from the 60s, 70s, probably the era that gets the most praise from casual boxing fans. And then, of course, the Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis generation with Evander Holyfield, Riddick Bowe, Galata, also a fucking fantastic time in heavyweight boxing, which obviously transitioned over to the Klitschko era. And then obviously now we are where we are today. 90s get the most praise from what I see online. Well, that's probably because most people are too young to remember fucking anything past the 90s. They probably grew up watching Tyson and all of those guys. Tyson was a great fighter, but his legacy is not complete. Yes, David Tua, because outside of his early part of his career where he was dominant and destroying people, he then pissed his career away and never had a real significant win again. Lennox Lewis obviously was a dominant fighter during that era, but unfortunately didn't get the Riddick Bowe fight, never rematched Klitschko, got knocked out several times. Holyfield, small cruiserweight moving to heavyweight, always struggled with the bigger fighters, right? But obviously had his biggest success versus Mike Tyson. But the version of Mike Tyson he fought was a shell of the Mike Tyson he was supposed to fight originally. So it's a shame that whole Buster Douglas situation happened, because it would have been Tyson Holyfield at that point, which really would have been a historical matchup. Tua had the greatest chin in combat history. Tua was a fucking walking brick. When you look at the Fantastic Four, that's Tua, the fucking thing, right? Smash! It's clobbering time. That's David Tua. David Tua. He's a bad, bad man, but obviously struggling as a short guy to get inside against the big dudes and be effective. I would have loved to see Tua versus Tyson. It's a shame that fight never happened, but maybe it was just a little past the best dates possible. But nonetheless, let's move through. So obviously the beginning of this era was Klitschko. Klitschko's brother lost to Lennox Lewis, and then the Klitschkos took over the division, basically dominated it for 10 years. And obviously, neither of them being Americans, they didn't really translate to the American market, which is something we see today. Americans just are not interested in supporting non-American fighters, even though John Boxing and others will tell you how all these people love foreign fighters and don't give Americans any respect. History shows you that's not fucking completely true at all, because the Klitschkos dominated heavyweight boxing, and yet they had to move to Germany to fight out of Germany, where they became superstars and super rich and dominated the heavyweight division for fucking a decade, right? Even though American boxing fans ignored the heavyweight division at that point, because there was no legitimate American heavyweight in the fucking conversation. Ibushi versus Tua, greatest heavyweight fight I've ever seen. That fight was great. I saw it live. What was it? Blue After Dark, something After Dark. Man, that fight fucking delivered in a big way. Now that we're talking about it, I'm probably going to watch it later on today. That fight was sensational. Fucking great. It was a shame that Ike Ibuchi obviously was a mental case and ended up spending so much time in jail. Obviously, he's out now and started to fight again, even though obviously as a 50-year-old, he's past his sell date, that's for sure. Haters are right. Snack was the reason Crawford won. It was a statistic natural annihilation of Canelo. Then, of course, the man that opened the gate for heavyweight boxing, Tyson Fury. Deontay Wilder could have fought both Klitschkos, but he ducked both opportunities, one of which obviously would have been for 3-belt unification. Tyson Fury, who wasn't the most celebrated heavyweight at that time, right, jumped at the opportunity and ended up shocking the world. A fight I called. Tyson Fury ended up winning. And basically what that did was open up the gates for the heavyweight division, allowing all these other heavyweights to really start participating, which prior to that, it was mostly just a lineup to see who was going to fight Klitschko and who was going to be able to beat his robotic, boring, yet effective style of punch, counter, and hold. I saw Ibuchi call out Usyk after his recent fight. Yeah, good luck. Like that's ever going to happen. You should call out Deontay Wilder. You have a better chance of that. Then obviously the man who picked up the thresholds after that was Anthony Joshua. Once again, Deontay Wilder was there and he could have done it, but the PBC and the team around him dropped the ball. Obviously, Matchroom and Sky Sports put a lot of money into AJ. They gave him the unification fight with Charles Martin in 2016, allowing him to become a unified champion. Obviously, then they rematched Klitschko for that lineal sort of title, similar to what we saw Mike Tyson do back in the day when he fought Spinks, who wasn't currently a champion when Tyson fought him, but he had that lineal sort of title about him. Then went on to fight guys like Takam, Parker, Povetkin, Ruiz in America, which was a huge shock, a Mike Tyson-esque shock, losing to him, came back, beat him in the rematch, beat Pulev, and then obviously had his 2 fights with Usyk. And to be fair, I thought in both fights, Anthony Joshua fought very well. The problem was that stylistically, he's fighting the wrong style against the wrong man in Usyk. You don't try to box a boxer. It's kind of like what Canelo Alvarez tried to do against Floyd Mayweather, and even recently versus Bud Crawford. You needed to steamroll and pressure guys like that. You cannot try to outbox them when you have none of the advantages. So when is this fight between AJ and Paul going to be? Apparently December. I'm not sure the specific date, but sometime in December. Are they going to put Russell Hiroka on the undercard still? Let's hope so, because that's a fight I was looking forward to. It'd be interesting to see if Hiroka could do better than Jin Sasaki and become another Japanese world champion. Obviously, we're talking about Anthony right now. Beat Franklin, beat Helenius, beat Wallin, had his, social media fight versus Ngannou, destroyed him, and then again, unexpectedly, got fucking destroyed by Daniel Dubois, right? Andy Ruiz, Daniel Dubois, destructions. But to be fair, Lennox Lewis went through similar situations, and nobody holds that against him today. But yet for AJ, people have different energy. So basically the card wasn't scrapped. No, I don't think so. I think they're just looking for a replacement. I heard it'll be December 19th. Yeah, sometime around there. And now we might be getting AJ versus social media icon Jake Paul. Then, of course, you have Wilder, who the Americans love to push because it's been so many years the Americans never had a dominant heavyweight fighter. So they put all their cards on the table, supported fucking Dante. The whole LDBC got around him, started putting out multiple videos a day, hyping him up. Yet his career, you can see, it's low-level opponent after low-level opponent after low-level opponent after low-level opponent. Only when he stepped up and fought Luis Ortiz did he really take on a legitimate top-level heavyweight. And he won. And that was easily the best and most defining victory of Wilder's career. Then he cherry-picked Fury, and we saw what happened there. He got fucking exposed. Even though it was a draw, we all saw him get beat. Ended up having 2 more fights, and rematch Fury, got destroyed in both fights. Bounced back with Robert Helenius, and then got beat by Joseph Parker, and then surprisingly by Zhale Zhang. And really that was the cap to his career. The things we'd said about him were finally exposed. If you're a low volume power puncher, you can be outworked. If you don't land your power, you're going to lose because you don't win rounds. Same thing we said about Wilder, we said about fucking Tank Davis, and we said about fucking Canelo Alvarez. And in all 3 examples, we're proven correct. Clarissa crashing out. Nobody cares about fucking Clarissa. Suing Punch Drunk. All Punch did was question her. She won't get nothing for suing him. Well, can you be surprised that she's fucking, she just wants the publicity. She figures she talks about suing him and it's just all over social media, keeps her name relevant, even though in reality, no one gives a fuck about that bitch. Nobody. Russell Hiroka isn't on BoxRec anymore, though. Yeah, but right now, I don't think Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua is confirmed on BoxRec either. So, and BoxRec sucks. So, let's not hold anything to that. Then, of course, you had Povetkin, who was one of the holdovers from the Klitschko era. Very good fighter, solid career. Obviously, we saw Wilder duck him in a fight that would have really been groundbreaking for Wilder. Had a very solid career. Losses to Vladimir Klitschko, lost to AJ, and then to end his career, lost to Dillian Whyte after coming off of a victory, which was a bit of a shock and surprise loss, to be fair. You had Pulev, an Olympian, another Klitschko, guy that remained, a guy that lost to Klitschko, lost to AJ, and then had a split decision loss to Chisora. Now is a WBA regular world champion. So still relevant today. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Apparently, he's going to be fighting Gassiev in the world title fight coming up sometime soon. and maybe the winner will get Moses Atoma, which I think would be a great sort of fight for Moses. Take on the winner of Pulev and Gassiev for the WBA title. Sounds great. Great way to move a young 20-year-old fighter. If Bud becomes a four-division undisputed champ, where does that put him? Well, so much of that is based on personal opinion. If you're a Crawford fan like me and you, we're going to put him really high on the all-time list. Maybe, top 5 easily. If you're a hater, you're going to fucking do what people do all the time. Criticize his resume, criticize this, criticize that, talk about snack. People are always going to find a way to downplay and diminish. And the irony is, you do that, but you could do that about all the old-time great fighters as well. There's probably a lot more shit you could dig up on the old-timers than there actually is versus modern boxers, because a lot of them fought bum-ass opponents on their resume. John always loves to pull up a bum-ass opponent in a guy's resume and act as if somehow that demeans his whole fucking career. Well, you could do that to every single historically great fighter, all the way up to Pernell fucking Whitaker, and find bums on their resumes. And not bums just early on in their first 15, 20 fights, bums later on in their careers as well. Because things were different. The social media era is different. It's hard to get away with fighting low-level opponents because there's always a fucking troll out there who's going to fucking troll you for fighting somebody that they don't recognize. Like we just saw, obviously, Boots Ennis get fucking trolled and ridiculed for taking on a mediocre opponent in his first fight at 154 pounds, right? Now we're seeing the same thing towards Junto Nakatani for taking on an unknown opponent in his first fight at 122 pounds. What's the difference? There's no difference. Both guys were unified champions that moved up in weight and chose to take easier touches before jumping in with big competition. The one difference is we know Junto's going to be fighting Inoue if both of them come through in December. With Boots Ennis, we hoped he'd be fighting Virgil Ortiz. But the reality is just because we hope it happens doesn't necessarily mean it's going to, right? Is it true Joseph Parker tested positive for cocaine? Apparently, yes. And my question is, why the fuck would Joseph Parker take cocaine before a fight? And this is probably what you would consider the biggest fight of his career. Because if he wins against Wardley, a guy that he was supposed to outbox and beat, in all honesty, he ends up getting a huge money fight for undisputed heavyweight world title versus fucking Usyk. Why would you threaten that by using cocaine? It makes no sense to me. But the English Board of Boxing is fucked. So I don't believe anything those fucking guys say. They would say that just so that then they could take the title away from Parker if he did beat Wardley, and then Wardley would still fucking be given the title even after getting beat, right? The fix was in. We have to respect Crawford's resume because he did it without clauses and catch weights. You're right, but I don't think that card should be on pay-per-view with 2 complete mismatches as the main and co-main event. What are you talking about, J.A.? What fight and what pay-per-view and what 2 mismatches as the main and co-main event? Are you talking about the Japanese card? Well, it's not pay-per-view, so there you go. Go look at your fucking DAZN subscription. That fight is not pay-per-view. At least it's not pay-per-view for me. On my DAZN, that is free to watch with my subscription. But also this kind of stupidity. People are happy to spend pay-per-view to watch Eubank and Ben on a fucking domestic UK card. 2 guys that aren't even relevant today just because their fathers were relevant. They have some recognition. I mean, come on. We've had a lot of shit pay-per-views. To get to see Inoue fight Picasso, Junto versus, what's-his-face, Martinez, Kenshiro Taraji trying to become a 3-weight world champion, Hiroto Tatsumi trying to become a 1-weight world champion, Tatsumi's brother and the other young fighter trying to continue to build up their legacies as prospects. It's a great fucking card, man. Great card. I would totally pay. I was going to go to fucking Saudi Arabia to watch it. So I'm willing to do more than pay $80 for it. I'm willing to spend uh, $600 to fly to Saudi Arabia, another $600 to $800 for hotel, ticket price, and then everything else that I would have to do. So, you know, the card is not bad. It's a historical card, and people can question the matchups, but you could do that literally with every single fucking card ever, because even cards that look great on paper don't always turn out to look great. I mean, people are hyping up that PBC card, Frank Martin versus fucking Rances Bartholomew. Rances Bartholomew is one of the most boring fighters in boxing today. If I was a promoter, I would never put fucking Frank Martin coming off of a KO loss and 2 years of inactivity in versus that fucking guy. It's just going to be a fucking stinker. A stinker. And some of the other fights on it, I mean, you know, Pitbull Roach fight. Yeah. But that fight is fucking means nothing. Those guys are fighting for a Tank Davis payday. It's another PBC irrelevant fight. I mean, I understand why Roach and Pitbull are doing it. That's why. And of course, the PBC is going to make every fight a pay-per-view because that's what they do. Literally, make every fight a pay-per-view. Like, who's the pay-per-view star of this fight? I mean, I'd rather watch Inoue fight his mandatory than watch Pitbull versus Roach. Fucking 100 days a fucking year. I've already seen Pitbull get outboxed by fucking Valenzuela. If Roach is good, he should be able to do the exact same thing. Bartholomew versus Easter Jr. The judges saw the same thing we all saw. Nothing. That was one of the worst fights in boxing fucking history, right? For Easter Jr., it ruined his career. You never saw him do anything afterwards, even though he was part of the Broner sort of situation, was being hyped up, right? After that, the dude disappeared completely. And not because he got paid a fucking a bag for that fight, because you know he did it. But Bartholomew's still fucking lurking around in dark, wet spaces, just like the cockroach that he fucking is. Boring. Fucking terrible. I mean, when I saw his name on the card, I was like, please, the PBC recycling again, and this time recycling a garbage fucking opponent. Garbage. Casimiro Rigo, that's another fucking terrible card as well. But Rigo's been in a few terrible cards. Remember, he was on that double feature card with Beyonce's husband's promotional team when he was on an Andre Ward card, and he fought some dude, I can't remember who it was, and fucking, I think in total they threw like 83 punches for the whole fight. It was fucking terrible. But people are going to say, oh yeah, slick boxers, man, they're great. Yeah, because people totally want to see someone fucking in combination throw fucking 83 punches over fucking 10 rounds. Oh, not Casimiro. It was on Andre Ward undercard. So well before the whole Casimiro Rigo fight. That was a PBC card. Again, the PBC recycling fucking old useless fighters. Rigo in this case. But let's move forward. Other top heavyweights of this era. Obviously, the guy that was trying to walk in Evander Holyfield's footprints, but yet has done it way better than Evander Holyfield. Dominated in cruiserweight, moved to heavyweight, took a little time getting going his first two fights, and then fucking AJ, Dubois, Fury, Dubois. And now, obviously, Wardley is going to be next, and then if we're lucky, he gets the German guy as well. You know, he's doing exactly what he should be doing and doing it flawlessly. And you know, this was a guy that people were hating on from day one. There's a difference between a slick boxer and a boring boxer. No, there's not a difference. The problem with being a slick fighter is your penchant is to be boring. That's what you want to do. You want to be in a boring fight. That's how your plan is to win. Low volume, control the distance, keep the guy at the end of your jab. That's the style you are trying to win the fight through. boring. Sure, some slick fighters throw combinations, have power, and make fights more exciting. But the whole style of being a slick fighter is boring. That's why all these guys that love slick fighters, I laugh because none of them watch amateur boxing. When I make videos about the world fucking championships and fucking all these other great amateur tournaments, nobody watches them because nobody's watching them. No one cares because these guys don't like slick boxers. They like black boxers, black American boxers. So whether they're slick, fucking aggressive, fucking low level, high level, they're going to dick ride them because that's what they're there to do. Hype up guys that look like them, shitting on everybody else. I mean, we just saw John Boxing hate on Ryota Tatsumi, criticizing his resume. The guy's had 3 professional fights as a fucking pro. What's to criticize? He's hyping up that Davis kid, Scooter Davis, but what, Scooter Davis, he's done more than fucking Ryota Tatsumi has done. Hayata Tatsumi, he's not even had 10 fights and he's fighting for a world title. And he was critical of his fucking resume. It's like, what do you mean? He already got like 2 or 3 ex-world champions on his resume. That's something Demetrius Andrade never fucking did. Never did. He's done it inside 10 fights. Andrade never did it. Never. Even today, one world champion on his resume. And he got knocked out. Pro Box Top Rank working on a Leo Espinoza unification fight. That would be great. They should do that. Holyfield fought real monsters at heavyweight. What real monsters did he fight, Bobby? So he fought better competition than Dubois, Fury, Anthony Joshua, Chisora. Who are these monsters that he fought? Who? You're just going to tell me what? An old-ass Mike Tyson that spent years in jail and was never fucking great when he came out? Or Riddick Bowe, a guy that fucking ducked Lennox Lewis. Riddick Bowe was a great fighter. The problem is he wasn't a great fighter. Not as accomplished as fucking AJ, not as accomplished as Fury. But you can say that. That's fine. Everyone has an opinion. That's why we're talking here. But if you act like Holyfield's done more than Usyk, you're fucking mental. Usyk's run at cruiserweight, far more dominant than Holyfield's. His run at heavyweight, no fucking losses at this point of his career. Domination. Undisputed, beating everyone, including fucking giants. Holyfield recognized as a guy that struggled with big heavyweights, whether it was Bowe or fucking Lennox Lewis. Usyk, he ain't struggling against fucking giants. He's beaten them. Boxing Clowns of the Year ranked Tank Davis, the Schofields, and Clarissa Shields. Pro Box, Kwawi, arguably better than anybody Usyk fought at cruiserweight. Bullshit. Bullshit. Bobby, you are one of these guys that just fucking probably never even saw fucking Dwight Muhammad Kwawi fight, especially when his name was Dwight Braxton, right? You don't even know his name was Dwight Braxton. And you're going to fucking hype him up as if he's better than fucking Breedis and fucking other guys that Usyk fought. But go look at his resume, look at his accomplishments. He got beat by bums. Those guys were dominant. Breedis, the only guys that beat him were fucking Usyk and fucking Jay Opataya. 2 monsters. I haven't watched BT's video yet, but I got to hear the details. What did BT say? Schofield's asking for over $5 million to fight Abdullah Mason. They may be boring to you, but I enjoy watching James Toney, who's the prototype. James Toney is not the prototype slick boxer. Stop. See, you just show you don't even know the difference between slick boxers and defensive fighters. James Toney was not a slick fighter. He was an in-the-pocket slick fighter, just like Roberto Duran. I like Espinoza, but I kind of feel like he's been living off the Ramirez fight. Well, all those guys outside of Fulton have literally done nothing. Look at who Angelo Leo's fighting next. Some unknown South African guy. No one gives a fuck. Ball, fighting Funduro, or sorry, what's his name? Not Funduro, but Figueroa. And then, of course, Espinosa is fighting Kagai, right? They're all saving themselves for a Nui fight, all of them. And I always thought Luis Lopez wasn't very good. Tony versus McCollum is one of my favorite fights to watch. So both guys got a lot to prove. Fury's best win, 38-year-old Vlad and a one-dimensional Wilder. Psh. He beat Klitschko, who dominated boxing for fucking 10 years. And you're going to say his age. But then you're probably one of those guys, Bobby, that praised Wilder for beating fucking Luis Ortiz. Right? The hypocrisy is fucking crazy. Crazy. I mean, how old was Bud Crawford when he just beat Canelo Alvarez? 38? How old was Beterbiev when he just fucking beat Bivol? 40? Stop. He made a video of Espinosa and Leo. Well, he's always going to make a video hyping up Leo and downplaying the other guys. Like, I called him out on it because he's hyping up fucking Angelo Leo going to Japan to fight a Japanese fighter who hasn't been relevant in fucking 6 years. But then he's hypercritical of Ball and Espinosa. What the fuck has Angelo Leo done outside of beating fucking Lopez? He beat Lopez because he had to, because Lopez had the title. And since he's got the title, he's done nothing. Fought low-level opposition, not even legitimate top 10 guys. 99% of boxing fans would disagree with you when you say James Toney wasn't a slick fighter. No, that's because they just don't know boxing. When we talk slick fighters, we're not talking about James Toney. James Toney doesn't fight behind a long jab, controlling distance. He's an interior fighter, an inside fighter that uses the Philly shell to make you miss and make you pay. He's right there with you, right inside. But he's too slick to hit. So he's slick, but that's not the slick fighters we're talking about. That's not what people call boring. They're calling Devin Haney running around the outside of the ring, William Skull running around the outside of the ring, slick, boring fighters. Rico running around outside the ring, low volume, fucking not engaging, not volume punches. That's not James Toney. James Toney was in a shitload of fucking exciting fights because stylistically he was right there to be hit. The question was, could you hit him? Figueroa sucks these days. Joet beat him and got robbed. That shit was terrible. Luis Ortiz was a blood pressure medication when Wilder fought him. That's true. But having blood pressure medication doesn't mean anything. It means you're being medically taken care of by a doctor, which means you're healthy and you passed your physical so you could fight. So this was the same Luis Ortiz. People said that fucking Anthony Joshua ducked. Let's not forget that. The two robberies on the PBC, Guasha Garcia and Figueroa Joet, all fighters age different. You know that, Sean. Exactly. Or they all would be unified champs at 49 like Hopkins. Yeah, I totally understand that. The problem is some guys like you and others pick and choose and use age to disregard and downplay guys. Like literally JB uses age to downplay fighters that are, non-American. Consistently. Oh, he was 25 years old before he won a world title. Yet he supports 28-year-olds who still don't have a world title. That's not even a joke, too. Ortiz was literally on blood pressure meds. Yeah, I know. One fight that should make is Joey Gonzalez versus Charlie Suarez. That would be a good fight. Both guys deserve quality. But just think about you literally using Evander Holyfield to shit on and downplay Usyk. Right? This is the problem with boxing fans. Hyping up a black guy to downplay a non-black guy. Because heaven forbid a non-black guy has been more successful. Right? I mean, insecure much. What's the issue? When I talked about Usyk, I wasn't hating on Holyfield. I'm praising Usyk for what he did. I don't need to shit on Holyfield. I love Holyfield. I love the 1984 fucking Olympic team, and apparently there's a movie out. So I have to go watch that because I'm a huge Holyfield fan. But reality is reality. We saw the fights, at least I did. I was around. I watched them. Then we get to Luis Ortiz, the man on pressure medicine. As people said, one of the most ducked fighters in boxing. Obviously, outside of his losses to Wilder and one close competitive fight to Andy Ruiz, which I think could have went either way, he was a guy that didn't really get the big fights. But he's the epitome of that Shavers, Chuvalo type of 1970s fighters, or those 1990 fighters that were similar. You always have tough guys like him that people weren't eager or excited to fight, a slick Cuban southpaw with power, right? And this just shows you the depth of this current heavyweight division, because people at that time rated fucking Ortiz one of the top 5 heavyweights in boxing. Let's not forget. Fury fought in that slick, boring style against Klitschko. Name a more boring heavyweight title fight than that. What's your point? So now you're going to use Fury, a non-black fighter, to try to prove what point? I didn't praise Fury fucking being exciting ever in any fights outside of the 2 fucking Wilder fights, which were pretty exciting. But yeah, everybody knows that first fight was boring. And even though he owed Klitschko a rematch, most people were fucking happy that the rematch never happened because the fight was so terrible. But what's your point? When I talk about slick fighters, I'm not fucking making it racial. Slick fighters. I do not use black slick fighters. I use slick fighters. That includes Fury. Boring. Low volume. Control the distance with his jab. Right? Not make fights exciting. That's him. The epitome. I've never been a fucking Tyson Fury fan. Ever. And if AJ fights him, all my money's on AJ to win. Where are we? My grandpa passed at 94 and was on blood pressure medicine for 38 years. It's not a death sentence. No, of course not. It had to pass his medicals to step in the ring. Yeah. You're the one making it about race, Sean. Don't crash out. No, I never mentioned black slick together. I'm just pointing out that you're using fucking non-black people to try to prove some point, as if you're trying to show that I'm doing a double standard or something. No, I said slick fighters are boring. And if people liked it, they'd fucking pay more attention to fucking amateur boxing. How much amateur boxing do you watch, J.A.? Fucking zero, right? None. Remember that Evan said Abdullah Mason beats Noakes is better than any win on Bud's resume. Imagine. Sam Noakes, who's proven fucking absolutely zero in boxing. Right now, you can classify him as a domestic UK fighter. That's what he is. He may be more, but at this point, that's what he is. Speaking of heavyweights, don't know much about guys like Kabial is fighting. Well, Kabial is not fighting anyone special. He's just staying busy. He's just fighting some Czech guy or some Polish guy because obviously everyone's ducking him and everybody's busy doing something else. And right now he's in position as a interim belt holder for that Usyk fight. So he's just getting in some rounds after sitting around all year, being ducked over by everybody. So it's not like a significant fight. But of course, haters will talk about, oh, look, Kabial's, if I make a video praising Kabial as one of the best, if not the best heavyweight in boxing, the next thing we'll hear is JB talking about how Kabial's resume is garbage. Look, he fought a guy with 10 losses. Who's the guy he's fighting next? Right? Typical. I never mentioned race when talking about Fury. No, you mentioned Fury. That's the whole race topic. Why are you bringing up Fury when I said slick fighters were boring? You're fucking putting Fury out there like somehow I was praising Fury for being exciting. Did I say Fury was exciting? I was talking about boring fights in boxing. Bartholomew, Easter Jr., Rigo, fucking Casemiro. Yes, Fury and fucking Klitschko. Also equally fucking boring. No. Why did you bring up Fury? When Fury, what was the significance of using Fury to talk about him being boring? What was the point? Outside of you using him because of his race. Because nobody would fucking say that you're wrong. Nobody would say that was an exciting fight. Nobody's ever said it was an exciting fight. It is a boring fight. Which proves my point. Slick fighters, boring. You don't prove that I'm wrong. You're just fucking reinforcing what I said. Slick fighters tend to be boring because the style that they fight is stylistically a boring fucking way to win. They're not trying to make an exciting fight. They're trying to make the fight as boring as fucking possible. That's the whole strategy that they're utilizing. They're not trying to be fan friendly. They're not trying to fucking win over fans. They're not trying to be fucking knockout of the year. They're not trying to get those accolades. They're trying to win a fight in the safest way possible. Boring. We were on the subject of boring stick fighters, and you were talking about Fury. I wasn't talking about Fury. I was talking about Usyk. And then you brought up Fury. After somebody else talked about how Usyk's resume and his career is not as good as Holyfield. 777. But nonetheless, move on. Me, Newton, salute. Me, Newton, salute. Me, Newton, Hawker, or me, Hawker, salute. But let's move forward to some other good guys. Here we got cokehead Joseph Parker, who's had a very good career, solid, and still relatively young. Obviously, his losses to AJ, White, Joyce, and just recently Wardley, which was a real fucking surprise, to be fair. I mean, I think most people felt that Parker was going to beat and destroy Wardley. I'm pretty sure in this comment section, I was the only person defending Wardley and actually using the Ernie Shavers comparison to defend him as a dangerous opponent for Parker. Was that against you, J.A.? Or was that against you, Bobby77? When was I bringing up Ernie Shavers to defend Wardley? Once again, hitting the nail on the head. Thank you very much. You know, you can just soak in my glory. But obviously that was quite the shock. And now the fact that he got caught using PED or, no, sorry, not PEDs, cocaine. I don't understand the significance. I don't understand how this would happen. And truthfully, it doesn't matter. The fight's over. Wardley won. We'll see what happens. Parker was robbed. Crooked rest saved Wardley. Well, but to be fair, Parker would have been stripped of the fucking victory because he was on fucking cocaine. So even if he got the victory, he would have fucking ended up losing afterwards anyways. Kind of like a Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia situation. Andy Ruiz. Andy, the biggest problem with him is this guy's just been too happy with the big paydays he's received. The one fight that we should have got during this era would have been America versus America, Mexico versus Black America, Wilder versus Ruiz, PBC, right? That's the fight that's really, unfortunately, never happened, right? I know people talk about Wilder and AJ, and obviously that would have been huge. It would have been for Undisputed, would have been very significant. But for Americans and the American market, Andy Ruiz versus fucking Deontay Wilder, that shit would have been fucking significant in this era. That is definitely one fight from this generation that unfortunately we missed out on. You know, this is a guy that many people feel beat Parker and should have been the IBF world champion. Obviously, he did beat AJ to become a unified champion, lost in the rematch, had that controversial loss to Miller. I felt Andy Ruiz beat Miller. That was my opinion, coming off of beating Luis Ortiz. So, you know, and then Chris Arreola. Having Arreola, Ortiz, and then Miller back to back to back would have been three very good, significant victories. I know a draw is not a loss, but nonetheless, it's also not a win. Andy Ruiz says he's coming back and he's calling out Usyk. Well, there's no point calling out fucking Usyk. You gotta beat somebody. Like, go beat someone, right? Like, that's how you get fights against Usyk. You fucking become relevant. You become a mandatory. You get a fucking interim title, like Parker had and like Kabial had, and that's why people talk about Parker and Kabial getting the Usyk fight, right? Some people trying to push Moses Atoma into that conversation, but it's like, what? Calm down. Calm down. Moses is 20. Let the kid have a few fights first. Right now, Parker or now Wardley and Kabial, they deserve their smoke from fucking Usyk. And well, I think Kabial is the one guy I think that can beat Usyk. And people that don't like Usyk, you should be pushing for that Kabial fight because his body work, woo-wee, that shit's gonna fucking make Usyk piss blood for days afterwards. That shit's gonna be significant. And you hear me, I'm calling that shit early. The guy to beat Usyk, Kabial. But obviously, Andy Ruiz, another solid fighter from this era. Compare him to Big John Ruiz for that 90s era. No comparison. Andy Ruiz is a much better fighter than John Ruiz. Much better. Then you got Derek Chisora. Derek Chisora gets slept on so much for losses. He's got 13 losses, but that's because he literally fought fucking everybody except Wilder, who didn't want any smoke with him. White, Ajit Kabial, Takam, White again, Spilka, Price, Usyk, Parker, Pulev, Fury, Waller, Washington, Joyce, Otto Wallen. And this is early in his career. You can go back when he lost to Klitschko. Like, I mean, this dude's resume is deep with everybody in boxing. If you want to know who the best fighters of this era were, just go read through fucking Derek Chisora's resume because he fought all of them except Wilder. Prayers for our Christian brothers in Nigeria. Yes, and also South Sudan, where it's going on as well. What's going on, pound for pound? Then we get to Daniel Dubois. Dubois, obviously, this guy is a bit of a meathead, but already early in his career, he's had a solid career. Destroyed Nathan Gorman, who was really being hyped in the UK. Fucking obviously got flatlined by Joyce, bounced back, beating Trevor Bryant, beating Kevin Lerna, fought Usyk, got stopped by him, bounced back, beat Miller, Hrgovic, and then beat Anthony Joshua to earn a rematch with Usyk. People were really pushing Dubois to beat fucking Usyk all over social media. I know you saw it and I saw it. People were hyped. They thought, oh, finally, the guy that's going to be able to beat Usyk, right? And then we can say, exposed, as True School Sports likes to say. But unfortunately, the fight went the exact same way I said it would. It'll be an earlier knockout and easier the second time around because great fighters, that's what they do. If they knocked you out the first time, they come back the second time and they do it far fucking easier. Kind of like when you watch Tyson Fury fight Derek Chisora. The more he fought Chisora, the easier it got. And Chisora is not easy for anyone. But for for Fury, it just got easier and easier. He knew what to do, and it was just far smoother and far easier for him to land those punches. The third fight, he fucking destroyed Chisora. Then we get to Joe Joyce, the juggernaut. How do you not like this guy? This guy comes to fight. Jennings, Dubois, Takam, Hammer, Parker, and then ran into the big Chinaman. Nobody expected fucking Zhilei Zhang to beat him. Zhilei Zhang's got no fucking gas tank, right? So people figured Joe Joyce with this nonstop aggression would just be too much for fucking Zhang. But unfortunately, because Joyce is a bit of a meathead, he fucking couldn't adjust and got destroyed 2 times in a round, 2 times in a row. Obviously, Chisora just had a great victory versus him, and so did Hrgovic. We will see if Joe Joyce still has anything left moving forward. Then Ajit Kabial, undefeated, 26-18. A guy that was cherry picked by Chisora. He fucking beat Chisora. And after that, nobody wanted to say his fucking name until Turki Al-Sheikh came into this boxing game and said, oh, I'm going to throw my Muslim brother on a card versus Makhmudov, the big giant Canadian fucking Russian heavyweight. Destroyed him. Ah, okay. We'll put him in with that fucking dangerous Frank Sanchez, who's super slick at heavyweight. Nobody wants to fight him. Destroys him. Oh, shit. Okay, we'll put him in with fucking the big Chinaman who's destroying everyone. Oh, shit. Literally, every time they put somebody in there who was supposed to beat Kabial, he didn't beat them. He fucking destroyed them. This dude was one of the most impressive heavyweights over the last fucking 2 years. From 2023 to 2025, monster. Now he's going to be fighting this guy, Damian Nayaba, who I think is from Czechoslovakia. I think so. Obviously, he's undefeated, but this is not supposed to be a serious fight. It's supposed to be a stay busy fight before getting Alexander Usyk in 2026. And that fight is one I'm looking forward to because I'm calling it here. Ajit Kabial beats Alexander Usyk, showing why this era is the best era of heavyweight boxing ever. Then, of course, we have Dillian White. Dillian got beat by AJ early, bounced back, beating Allen, Chisora, Helenius, Brown, Parker, Chisora again, Oscar Rivas, Marius Walk, lost to Povetkin, came back in the rematch, stopped him, got destroyed by Fury, beat Franklin, beat Hammer, beat Tehe, and then got destroyed in probably what is the end of his career versus the new generation, Moses Atoma. And Moses is not this generation. He's the next generation. So that's why he's not being mentioned on this video today. So this wasn't even every heavyweight that was really significant during this time, right? It was just a quick sort of peruse of guys that were really relevant in this era of heavyweight boxing. And you see the depth and the fact that these guys were literally all fighting each other. Sure, we didn't get Ruiz versus Wilder, and we didn't get Wilder versus AJ. We didn't get Wilder versus the Klitschko's. You see this situation. Wilder, Wilder, Wilder. 3 fights we should have got, all fucking had to do with Wilder and his team, knowing he'd be exposed, ducking those fights. But outside of that, we've had almost every single major fucking heavyweight matchup we could ask for, right? And then we still have other guys, Effie Jogba and lots of other dudes that have been solid heavyweights during this era. This depth, right? And that's really what I look at. When you look at the 70s depth and then the 90s depth and now, there's no comparison. The depth is unreal. And fine, if you want to talk about the elite competition on top, maybe there's more of a conversation there. When you talk about Frazier, Foreman, and Ali and Liston, right? Maybe you can throw Norton in there. Maybe. Then, of course, you got Tyson, Lennox Lewis, Riddick Bowe, Evander Holyfield. Larry Holmes is from that Ali era. He's kind of in between, so I guess he's kind of had his own era. And unfortunately, the Larry Holmes era was fucking not a great era. Not a great era. A lot of fat fucking heavyweights that didn't want to throw punches. But this one, man, we've had great style matchups. You know, you've had global diversity, America versus the UK, right? Which obviously the UK has been dominating. I mean, this is a renaissance in UK heavyweight boxing. And the shit's just continuing, right? Continuing. And of course, that's going to be taken over by Moses Atoma, who's just going to take that ball and fucking run. So, you know, I think this heavyweight division is very fucking underrated, not given any respect at all. But that's the problem. When people are too close, they don't really have a fair perspective. And unfortunately, when that happens, this is the kind of boxing takes you get, right? People hating on Usyk and criticizing Fury and, you know, hating on AJ and shitting on Wilder. It's easy to be like that, but we could do that against Frazier and Foreman and fucking Norton and even Ali and for sure Sonny Liston. You know, you could be critical of fucking Tyson, Lennox Lewis got knocked out by, you know, mid-tier fighters multiple times. Riddick Bowe dropped his title in the garbage can instead of fucking fighting unification to redeem himself for his Olympic loss to the Canadian fighter Lennox Lewis. Razor Ruddock, you know, obviously a one-handed fighter, but super exciting. I think as a boxing fan, you really embrace and enjoy all those generations, especially when you're older like me and you've lived through them. But people are too quick to downplay and underestimate and belittle this current heavyweight generation. So that's why I made this video today, to talk about that. But let's move through to some upcoming topics, because I know this is what's getting a lot of people's attention. Obviously, we talked about how Sam Noakes is a better opponent than anybody on Bud Crawford's resume. I mean, anybody that would make that statement. How could anybody make that statement in all fucking honesty? It's ridiculous. Sam Noakes, domestic UK fighter, but that's okay. Abdullah Mason is a young kid who's getting his first chance to win a vacant title. Then, of course, you got Bam Rodriguez versus Puma Martinez for unification. What makes this fight even more significant is the winner of this is in line to potentially fight Kenshiro Taraji. And you know, John Boxing going to hate that. Imagine if Kenshiro Taraji and Bam Rodriguez is fucking scheduled for undisputed. Wow, you know, how bad does that make a dude look when the guy he's going out of his way to criticize on and hate on ends up fighting for his third weight division against a pound-for-pound fighter like Bam Rodriguez? Because Devin Haney's not fighting a pound-for-pound fighter. Stephen Fulton isn't fighting a pound-for-pound fighter. Isn't there one other guy who's fighting for 3 weight divisions? I think so. But Kenshiro Taraji, if he wins in this December date, that's what he'll be doing. He'll be fighting Bam Rodriguez if Bam gets by Puma for undisputed super flyweight title. And that's great, because if you, like me, have been watching smaller weight fighters for a long time, especially during the Roman Gonzalez sort of generation and Inui at 115 pounds, what we wanted was an undisputed champion at that time, right? People were really hoping to get Roman Gonzalez versus Inui for undisputed, but then you had the PBC fighter with the IBF title who fucking basically didn't want any smoke until, of course, he got beat by Puma Martinez, right? And now, of course, we get Bam, who is probably one of the top 5 American fighters in boxing today, right? And you could say 3 of them are on this card: Haney, Bam, David, Bud Crawford, and then probably you got to say Shakur Stevenson, right? The 5 best American fighters currently in boxing today. And Bam is right there. And interesting enough, 3 of them are on this card. So hats off to Turki Al-Sheikh. I think Crawford can beat Bivol 50-50 fight. Well, to be fair, I mean, you mentioned that. Now John's going to say that the anti-boxing community is asking Bud Crawford to fight Dimitri Bivol at light heavyweight. No, nobody's asking him to do that. It's a conversation. And if you feel he could, you can talk about how you think he could. I don't know if he could, but obviously that's an interesting matchup. I talked about Crawford doing something Sugar Ray Robinson wasn't able to do, which was move up to light heavyweight to become a champion. He obviously got knocked out when he moved up and got beat by Joey Maxim. So if Crawford could do that, that would be fucking historic. But moving back down to middleweight to become an undisputed champion in his 4 weight division, that shit's fucking historic as well. I mean, if he just goes back and wins a title at 160 to become a 6 weight world champion, that shit's historic. I mean, Bud Crawford right now he's in a position where almost anything he does is historic, whether it's moving up or moving down. There's legacy and history attached to it. So, hats off to Bud. He's in a position where, you know, he can fucking quiet the haters for sure. Irony is, I was listening to Boots Ennis's dad, who was saying that Bud Crawford doesn't need to do anything. He could do whatever he wants. And I thought, I wonder if the haters are going to call Crawford out, or in this case, obviously call Boots Ennis's dad out for saying that, because this is similar to what me and other people said with Canelo Alvarez. At that point, Canelo didn't need to fight David Benavidez. He could do what he wants. He already made his legacy. And for Bud Crawford, I feel the same, right? Crawford doesn't need to do any of this. He's made his legacy. He beat Canelo Alvarez. His legacy is fucking solidified, right? Solidified. Obviously, you can continue to add more to your legacy, but by doing that, there's always the risk of potentially getting beat, right? And that is a realistic thing. When you fight guys, potentially you could get upset. But that's part of the reason why guys deserve praise, by taking on risky opponents like Usyk, like Inoue, like Crawford. Virgil said that he can do anything he wants. He's never been a world champion. I heard him say that too. Oh my God. This is what I said about American fighters. They're way too fucking entitled. American boxers are way too entitled. They think fucking, they don't need to do anything great to get praised as being great. But at this point, Virgil's never been a champion. He's like fucking Ryan Garcia right now. He got name recognition, but as far as accomplishments, fucking zero. Zero accomplishments. Same as Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia might actually become a world champion before Virgil Ortiz. Imagine that. And I don't hate fucking Virgil Ortiz. I like Virgil Ortiz. I'm not a big fan of Ryan Garcia, but I am a fan of Virgil Ortiz. And people make that statement, it's just like, man, fuck, what do you mean? You don't need to do anything. You can do whatever you want. Sure, you can do whatever you want, but you're going to be scrutinized and criticized if you do it. You can go fight fucking Errol Spence. DAZN ain't going to pay for it. So you better fucking get together with PBC, because that's the only way that fight's getting done. And you can fight Errol Spence, but don't be surprised when people fucking mock you, ridicule you, call you a fucking ducker for not fighting Boots Ennis or a champion to take on a fucking old recycled PBC fighter. So Bud, Inoue, Canelo, and Usyk can't do anything they want, but Tank Davis can. What is the LDBC? Well, that's the craziness, right? That's the craziness. I heard John Boxing literally defend Tank Davis, saying, he doesn't need to prove greatness. He can fight Jake Paul. That's fine. But yet, if any non-fucking Black American fighter did that, you could imagine the constant hate and ridicule coming from guys like him. Yet he says Black American fighters are held to a whole different standard. Yeah, a lower fucking standard. A lower standard. You're willing to let Tank Davis, who's never been a unified champion, go fight for the bag and duck fucking legitimate fucking fighters. Legitimate. Shakur Stevenson is a pound for pound fucking fighter. But what do they say? Oh, Shakur is boring. Oh man, come on, J.A. I thought fucking boring fighters were great. But yet when people try to defend Tank Davis not fighting Shakur, that's what they say. Oh, he's boring. He's a boring fighter. He's boring. Nobody wants to see Tank Davis versus fucking Shakur because Shakur's a boring fighter. Oh my God. It's a fucking legacy fight. It would be the biggest fucking fight of your career. A defining victory. If Tank Davis could beat Shakur Stevenson, he shuts down all the haters. All the people that said he ducked Lomachenko, he didn't fucking want to fight, T.O., he didn't want to fight this guy and that guy. If he fights Shakur and beats him, especially if he was able to fucking knock him out, he's done and dusted, right? Sometimes in a career, it only takes one legacy fight to make you a superstar. And that would be his fight. He doesn't have to do it, but he's going to be criticized by boxing fans if he doesn't, especially if he tries to get the bag fighting a social media fucking icon, because that shit's weak. 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 But this is a generation of weak ass motherfuckers. So who's shocked? Who's surprised? Raise your hand. I'm not. It's weak generation. Weak. But let's move forward. So Abdullah Mason, Sam Noakes, as we said, Sam Noakes right now, I mean, what does he prove? We don't know how good he really is. So this fight will be telling. It'll be telling if Sam Noakes is legitimate, and it'll tell us a lot about Abdullah Mason. If he wins easy, he was supposed to win, and it tells us that Sam Noakes was really domestic. If Sam Noakes can show us that he's got some layers to it and give Mason a real historically significant fight, that will help both guys. It will elevate both of them. Even coming off of a loss, Sam Noakes will become a player at 135. And of course, Abdullah Mason will be the next generation of guys to take over the division, because obviously Shakur and Tank Davis look like maybe they're leaving the weight class. So, it'll be all Abdullah Masons. For Bam Martinez, as I said, a potential huge fight between Bam and fucking Ken Shiro Taraji. People that love small fighters, that's the fight they want to see. I want to see it. That's the fight I'd love to see. Just like I'd love to see Ioka versus Roman Gonzalez at 118 pounds for the winner to become a 5-weight world champion, which potentially could make them the 10th 5-weight world champion in boxing. Let's go, Roman Gonzalez. And as far as Devin Haney, it's been interesting, the whole build-up for this Devin Haney-Brian Norman fight. As I said yesterday, the more I watch the interviews, the more I listen to the teams and people talk, the more I fucking hope Brian Norman knocks Devin Haney out. And this isn't specifically because of Devin Haney. It's the people around him. It's very cancerous. It's like the Floyd Mayweather fucking fanboys. It's like the Deontay Wilder fanboys. And no surprise that generally those guys were all fucking LDBC, right? These guys are just toxic. Toxic. So if Norman knocks out Haney, we could fucking get rid of another toxic fan base, and then we have a real legitimate fun fighter to watch in Brian Norman. I don't know who Brian Norman would fight afterwards, but to be fair, at that 147-pound division, Brian Norman's not a superstar. You could make all those fights, because none of those guys should be asking for fucking boatloads of money. None of them. Not Stanionis, not fucking any of them. Maybe Brian Norman could go to the UK and win that IBF title off of the UK champion. Then, of course, you get Benavidez versus Yard. Nothing would make me happier than to see David Benavidez fucking get flatlined in the first 4 rounds by Anthony Yard's right hand. That would be so fucking brilliant. Can Yard do it? Well, I think if he can do it inside 8 rounds, he can do it. If the fight goes longer than 8 rounds, probably Benavidez is going to win and maybe even stop Anthony Yard late in that fight. And unfortunately, then we're going to have Mirage and guys like Mirage, even though I think there's only Mirage, only one. David Benavidez fan group literally has one person. One fan. David Benavidez has one fan. Fucking Mirage. I mean, how pathetic is that? But Mirage will obviously be all over social media fucking blowing smoke up David Benavidez' ass. I listened to the interview today, and Benavidez was talking about how he was happy to crack the pound-for-pound top 10 list, and his goal is to become number 1. I'm like, oh, fuck. Give me a break. Give me a break. How are you ever going to become number 1? You'd have to fight fucking Bivol, or at least better BF, then fight Zerto, and then face Jay Opataya to become a 3-weight world champion and hopefully undisputed, at least at one of the weight divisions, cruiserweight. Obviously better if you do it at light heavyweight as well. You become a 2-weight undisputed champion and a 3-weight world champion, and you beat Jay Opataya, Zerto Smith, Bivol. Maybe you could be pound for pound number 1, depending on what everybody else in boxing does around that time, right? That means nobody else doing anything significant. only you. So you rise from 10, which I don't think you're a top 10 fighter, to number 1. It means Canelo, Usyk, Bud Crawford, Beterbiev are going to have to retire. You beat Bivol, and that means like fucking Junto's going to have to beat fucking Inouye. So then now Inouye drops down, so that gives you an opportunity to move up as well. So then it's going to be potentially Junto, you, and Bam Rodriguez fighting for that number 1 position. And if Shakur beats Tio, he'll be in the mix in the conversation. For Devin Haney, I don't know. Devin Haney, if he fights Brian Norman and then beats fucking Ryan Garcia, that doesn't put him into the top 5 in the pound for pound list. Let's be honest. I mean, that's not nearly as significant as what we were talking about in other fights. He'd need to move up to his 4th weight division and maybe fight a Boots Ennis. And then at that point, okay, then maybe we could talk about him being a 4-weight world champion, beating a Boots Ennis could put you in that top 3, potentially number 1, depending on what other people are doing. But I listen to fucking David Benavidez say that. I'm like, dude, you just never wanted to fight anyone. You just fucking cap constantly. Did you guys see Showbiz the Adult for DAZN doing interviews with David Benavidez and other people? Showbiz is so cringe, man. I don't know how he's getting that sweet gig, because it's hard to listen to him. Like, I can honestly say I don't even listen to his YouTube channel anymore at all. Maybe I'll listen to a short video that is a significant topic occasionally, but very seldom. Where are we? So, Sean, who do you favor, Norman versus Devin, and why? Well, I think Devin is going to outbox Norman. I think Norman is a one-dimensional fighter who has slow feet. He doesn't have much length. He's mostly a power puncher who needs to be in that mid-range to get his shots off. And I think Devin Haney is a better boxer, has better feet, and obviously can outbox Brian Norman and beat him. Because at this point, what has Brian Norman done? I know John Boxing likes to talk about how Brian Norman is better than anybody on Junto Nakatani's resume, but that's cap, because the reality is you don't even know who's on Junto's resume, and the reality is you're gonna now fucking give Brian Norman all this credit just because he's black for beating fucking who? Santillan? Like, if you would have asked JB and the LDBC and these guys about Santillan after he beat Rocha, they would have shit all over him. They would have fucking not given him any credit. They wouldn't have put him in the top 5 of the fucking 147-pound division. But then, of course, once Howard beats him, now you're going to use that as if it's some significant fucking win. Like George Kambosos. When George Kambosos was a significant win for Devin Haney, he literally beat Teofimo Lopez, who literally had beat Lomachenko. There was huge significance. Beating Rocha, who's fucking nobody, and then beating Santillan, the guy that beat Rocha, that is like fucking the lowest level of comparison. Because Rocha has went on to do nothing, and Santillan has went on to do nothing in boxing, right? They were gifted an opportunity because Bud Crawford moved up in weight. That's the only reason they got anything. Because we all know that if Rocha or Santillan would have fought Bud Crawford, first of all, Crawford would have got shit on for fighting that low-level competition from all the Errol Spence fans. But secondly, we know he would have fucking destroyed those dudes. Destroyed them. So Brian Norman beating Santillan, it's like, okay. And then you fought some guy nobody knows, and then you went to Japan to fight some guy who already been knocked out before by Andy fucking Hiroka. And who knows how good Andy Hiroka is. He might get flatlined in 3 or 4 rounds by fucking Gary Russell. So you beat a domestic Japanese fighter, and now you're going to act as if Brian Norman has done so much in boxing. And don't get me wrong, I like Brian Norman. He sounds like a good dude. He's got an exciting style. but you still got to win the fucking fights. And at this point, he hasn't. If you're going to talk about guys' resumes being weak, Brian Norman fucking epitomizes that. Weak fucking resume. Outside of Santillan, you couldn't name one fighter on his resume, and you only can name Santillan because that's the only guy that's even kind of relevant, right? It's like people that were hyping up Frank Martin for Tank Davis. Yet Frank Martin hadn't beaten anyone. So you got to talk about some useless fucking Puerto Rican Dominican guy that he beat who wasn't even a top 10 competition and act like somehow, well, he beat that guy who was fucking great. Nobody thought that guy was great. And the guy failed a drug test as well. And you ignore the whole drug test scenario just because you want to fucking hype up Frank Martin. But let's be fair. You can't criticize other guys' poor resumes, but then let all these other dudes fucking slide through, acting as if, well, it doesn't. We know their competition is better. Do we? Do we know their competition is better? Based on what? Taraji versus Bam will be good. That would be great. I don't know if Taraji is going to beat Perez, but I hope so because I would love to see Taraji and Bam. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Taraji is just another big name, old fighter that Bam is going to destroy in moving up through his career. But, you know, it still says a lot about Taraji to become a three-weight world champion and then take on a pound-for-pound fighter to prove himself. And he's wanted to fight with Bam for a long time. That's why he's literally jumping up to that weight division right now, right? In, you know, anticipation of taking on that kind of opponent. And that's a risky fight, man, because Taraji was best at 108 pounds. At 112, he became much more of a slugger, much more flat-footed, much easier to hit. At 115, I expect him to be the same. Not as fucking dynamic, not the boxer he once was, much more of a guy who's flat-footed, gets hit too much, and tries to knock dudes out. And when you move up in weight against bigger guys, that's probably not the style you want to fight. Sean, you don't give Devin credit for beating Norman. No, it's not that I don't give him credit. I am giving him credit. He's becoming a three-weight world champion, fighting possibly the most dangerous fighter at 147. You got to say possibly, because do you know Brian Norman is the best fighter at 147? No, you don't know that because he hasn't beaten anyone at 147. You don't want to give fucking all these other guys credit for beating people, but you want to give Devin Haney like souped up credit for beating a guy whose best win was Santillan. Like, let's be fucking honest. Be fucking consistent. That's all. You're going to criticize Junto's resume, but Junto's fought way more world champions than fucking Brian Norman has. Kenshiro Taraji's fought way more fucking champions than fucking Brian Norman has. The one thing you could say about Norman is he looks the real deal. He's fucking cool, a likable guy, real fucking explosive power, and he's only 24 years of age. So he can continuously potentially get better. See, you're going to name guys, but you can't say any of those guys are worse than him. Mario Barrios' victory versus fucking Ugas is a better win than anything that fucking Brian Norman has on his resume. You know it, and everybody knows it. Ugas is a way better win than fucking Santillan. Don't even fucking try to go there. Does that mean I think Barrios beats Brian Norman? No, I don't think he beats him. But Brian Norman hasn't done anything. You guys want to fucking give him fucking praise for not doing anything, but then criticize and cry over other fighters for getting praise because they have weak resumes. We don't even know who the guys they are fighting. Well, we don't know who Brian Norman's fighting either. Right? You just expose yourself for your fucking blatant fucking double standard. Devin goes in and schools Norman Jr. For me, Devin is going to be 6 or 7 pound for pound. Why? Who's Brian Norman Jr.? Devin Haney told you. Who is this guy? I don't know anybody he fought. That's what Devin Haney said. This guy's a bum whose fucking resume has been built up by fucking Top Rank. That's what Devin Haney said. But now you want to fucking act like, oh, it doesn't matter because I want to blow Devin Haney. So anything he does, I'm going to give him tons of credit for. Right? That's the blatant fucking racial double standard from guys like you, John Boxing, the LDBC, and the rest. You're willing to fucking bend over backwards for a black fighter, but anybody that's not black, you'll fucking be hyper fucking critical. Barrios, Rolly, Crocker, these are the other champs, so Norman is the best. Why just saying their name makes Norman the best? You've never even seen Crocker fight, so you can't really say anything about him. Rolly beating fucking Ryan Garcia is a better win than anything Norman has on his resume. Mario Barrios beating Ugis is a better win than anything Brian Norman has on his resume. That's just a fact. Devin Haney's just lucky because all the good fighters left the 147-pound division. 46-year-old Pacquiao stepped in with Norman Jr. He gets broken in half, and I think you know this. No, I don't know this. Based on what? Based on your feelings? Okay. We're going to take Bobby's feelings and run with it. I think Haney will make it look easy because Norman has only fought Jack in the Box cashiers. Yeah. What slick fucking fighter with skills has Brian Norman fought? And I hope Brian Norman proves me wrong. But at this point, you can't give a guy credit if he's never fucking done it. This is what I'm talking about. Tear down everything. I'm not tearing down everything. What am I tearing down? I told you facts, and you want to use feelings. I'm using facts. You're using feelings. Brian Norman is the best because I said so, and I will cry if you fucking contradict me. Yet I just showed you that fucking Barrios and Rolly have more significant wins on their resume than fucking Brian Norman has. That's a fact. Ugis is a real champion who'd already beaten Pacquiao years ago, sent him into retirement. What does Brian Norman did? He beat Santillan. The only fight you ever saw Santillan in was against fucking Rocha, and he was supposed to lose that fight. Come on. Devin is just having some banter. Okay. Even though what Devin says is true, because we know ESPN Top Rank are great at building fighters and giving them world titles, just like Abdullah Mason now is getting a domestic UK fighter to win a vacant WBO title. Does this mean Abdullah Mason all of a sudden is the best fighter at 135 pounds? Abdullah Mason is the best fighter at 135. He beat fucking Sam Noakes. Is that what you're saying? Of course it's not. Because you're going to pick and choose. All based on who you like. All based on your feelings. What makes you fucking feel fuzzy inside? You should take antibiotics because that doesn't sound healthy. Sean, I never once went to John Boxing's channel. Listening to you, it's not a channel I would follow. No, but what you're saying is the exact same fucking thing. You're giving fucking this guy all the credit in the world based on doing fucking nothing. And based on Devin Haney beating him, you want to fucking elevate him so high. But then other fighters that beat more quality opponents, you don't want to give them credit at all. Come on. Has Norman Jr. faced a slick black fighter before? Relatively. And he was kind of exposed in that fight. But that was a few fights ago, and it wasn't an elite fighter. So, you know. Has Shakur faced a slick black fighter? Shakur? He faced Robinson Consacao. Robinson Consacao is way fucking slicker than anyone Brian Norman's faced. Jamal Herring, I wouldn't say he's so slick, but okay. Shakur's sparring partner is Herring. Well, so you're trying to compare Shakur to Brian Norman. Yet Brian Norman has never been on Shakur's level at any fucking point of his career. Not as an amateur, not as a prospect, and not as a champion. And to be fair, I mean, I pointed this out many times. Junto Nakatani's resume is better than Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson has 2 vacant titles at 126 and 135, and then he beat Jamal Herring and fucking Valdez at 130 and Kansakau. So obviously 130 is the division he actually did some heavy lifting. And now he just beat Zepeda, which was probably the best win he had at 135. But Zepeda's never been a world champion and potentially never will be. I think that's a good fight, Shakur versus Norman at 147. So now Shakur needs to go from 135 to 147, even though he's smaller than Devin Haney. How does that make sense? Doesn't Shakur have a fucking Tank Davis fight at 135? Why would he have to go fight Brian Norman at 147? Tank Davis fight is way bigger, way more significant, a unification fight. But you want Shakur to go to 147. I mean, if everything we hear is true, he is going to go to 140 to become a 4-weight world champion. Shakur is already a 3-weight world champion. Something Devin Haney's trying to accomplish, Shakur's already done. And now, if rumor is correct, he's going to move up to 140 to become a 4-weight world champion by beating Teofimo Lopez. So that's not significant enough for you. He needs to go up to his 5th weight division to take on Brian Norman. He don't know boxing. It's all feeling over fucking fact, right? I'm not sure about Junta's resume as good as you know it. However, I know you and True School have been known to cap for Asian boxers. See, when people talk about Asian boxing, they're capping for Asian fighters. But when you talk about Black American fighters, it's the truth. It's the truth, man. I'm speaking the truth. It's all truth, man. These are real ones. The truth, man. It's the truth, right? What's Shakur's best win? Dwarf and Valdez, Zepeda, Santos. Not much to get excited about. Yeah, that's why I said Junta Nakatani's resume is better than Shakur. But we know why Shakur's resume is not better. Motherfuckers ducking his ass, right? Ducking him like crazy. Come on, Tank. Come on, Devin. Devin was mandated to defend his WBC title versus Shakur, and he went up to fight Regis Prograis instead. I mean, I can understand weight issues. Regis, much fucking easier style. So, he went up and took on that fight because he knows Shakur's fucking too dangerous to be fucking fighting at 135. Now beating a Teo is a big deal. Teo is fucking the biggest, most significant win on Shakur's resume. That will catapult him into the top 5 of the pound for pound list. Like, look at the difference there between Haney fighting Brian Norman and Shakur facing Teofimo Lopez. Like, you cannot compare Brian Norman to Teo. Teo is a legitimate 2-weight world champion, arguably undisputed in both weight divisions, if politics didn't have a point to play. Brian Norman beat fucking Santillan. Bobby, a new boxing fan. Cap Carrier. Bobby, you my dog, but you're saying a lot of casual takes. Well, and as I said, you brought up, like, I'm hating on Devin Haney. I didn't hate on Devin Haney. I praised Devin Haney for signing the deal to fight George Kambosos. I praised him for fucking signing the deal against fucking Lomachenko, right? I called out the Ryan Garcia thing, money grab, following fucking Tank Davis footsteps, which he's done on numerous occasions, Gamboa, Ryan Garcia. And I praised him for fucking taking on Brian Norman. But to say, if he beats Brian Norman, he catapults up to the 6 or 7 on the pound for pound list. John is going to try to push him into the top 5 of the pound for pound list. So all the guys in the top 5, it's irrelevant what they've done, even though what they've done is more significant than beating fucking Brian Norman, right? But beating Brian Norman somehow, that's the fucking key, man, right there. That's the key. I'm just higher on Norman Jr. than you are. No, you're going over feelings instead of facts. I like Brian Norman Jr. He's a much more exciting fighter to watch than fucking Devin Haney. I pray to all the gods in heaven that Brian Norman proves me wrong, shows he's got levels, and at 24 years of age, he's continuing to grow and improve as a fighter, and he's going to beat Devin Haney. And at that point, I'll be like, yeah, Brian Norman's my dog. Now let's get him in with Barrios, get him with Croker, getting him with fucking Stanionis, beating those dudes' ass and taking over 147. But you got to win the fucking fights, right? Like, ultimately, that's what you got to do. We could think you're great, but you're not great until you fucking win. The rest is just feelings and speculation. Yes, I like him. He looks good. He talks well. I mean, I like listening to him talk. He fucking, he looks like a fighter, But, okay. This was a guy that was this close to being cut by Top Rank. Literally. Top Rank was going to cut his fucking ass. If he lost to Santillan, his contract was done. Done. Just like Elvis Rodriguez. But he stepped up. He did what he had to do. He manned up when the fucking time called for it. So let's hope he does the same thing in this situation. Now, Sean, outside of Ramirez and Kambosos won, what performance of Devin's weren't good? Shakur's not boring versus Nakatila and Santos. Oh, no, Shakur is boring, man. Shakur is boring. See, once again, you are using Devin Haney or using Shakur to somehow try to what? Expose me? How are you exposing me? I will tell you Devin Haney's a more exciting fighter than fucking Shakur Stevenson, even though they're both fucking relatively boring fighters. But Shakur is boring. Outside of that first fight at 135 against the Japanese guy, where he looked fucking sensational, most of his career has been fucking boring as fuck. But it doesn't mean he's a bad fighter. You can be fucking legendary and be a slick, boring fucking fighter. No one's saying you're shit because you're slick and you're boring. You're obviously not marketable. We will rather have Norman fucking win because stylistically he's a much more exciting fighter to watch. I would way rather watch Norman fight than Haney and Shakur. For Devin Haney, the problem with him is he's chinny. He's got no power. And moving to his third weight division, eventually fucking that shit's going to be exposed. Right? You better be super fucking slick because, if you don't have a great chin and you got no power to keep motherfuckers off you, eventually you're going to be fucking found out. Right? And people hyping him up like he's pound for pound number one. He's the guy that's going to take over boxing after fucking Bud Crawford retires. He's the next Floyd Mayweather. It's like, oh my God. This is the LDBC pushing this shit. We saw what they said about Wilder, about fucking Spence, and now it's Devin Haney. These dudes are fucking proven wrong after one time after another. Always exposed as fanboys pushing narratives, right? Like, to be fair, Devin Haney's a better boxer than Wilder and Spence. But Spence and Wilder are way more exciting to watch fight. Spence is probably stylistically the best out of the three. Wilder's the most dramatic. Devin Haney's the boringest. But Devin Haney looks like he's easily going to have the best career out of all three of them, right? But do I think he's going to be a dominant 147-pound fighter? Probably not. And talk about going to 154, you better just say no, because at 154, man, you are going to fucking get exposed. That's just the fucking reality. At 154, Devin Haney is just going to get exposed. Does this mean he's bad? No. But pound for pound number one, the next great fucking American pound for pound fighter in boxing? I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. And I could be wrong. I mean, I'm not always right. Most of the time, but not always. So I could be wrong. I still wonder if Clarissa is the GOAT. She looks like a fucking goat, probably smells like a goat. But as far as the GOAT, based on fighting in divisions that have no fighters, probably not. When people want to criticize people for just collecting titles and resume means everything, but then they want to fanboy Clarissa Shields, once again showing the racial double standard. Clarissa Shields fucking is just collecting belts, most of them vacant. She ain't beaten anyone. Her resume is weak as fucking shit. When you compare her resume to fucking the Irish girl, it ain't even fucking close. It's not even close. Katie Taylor's resume is fucking leaps and bounds better than Clarissa Shields. Clarissa getting caught for buying views is really sad. I'm disappointed to hear that. That doesn't mean anything. There's a ton of YouTubers that buy views constantly, especially when they're building up their channels originally. Even I thought about buying views to get past that 1,000 mark. Right now, what am I? 915. It's been fucking 18 months since John got my channel closed down, and I was at like 6,000 fucking subscribers, and now I can't even get to 1,000. So I thought about buying views just to get over that, to get into the what is it? AdSense criteria, 1,000 subs. But she won't be the first and she won't be the last. But not a celebrity like Clarissa with millions. Well, does she have millions? How many fucking followers does she have on Instagram and things? I don't think that many. Let's be honest. Let me ask AI, because AI knows all. How many subscribers does Clarissa Shields have to her Twitter and Instagram pages? Who the hell you buy views? How the hell you buy views? There's like websites where you can go to and they will sell you views for money. It's almost like $1 a fucking for a subscription. Not views, but subscribers. Oh, Instagram, not bad. 2 million on Instagram. Yeah, not bad. But the reality is nobody wants to hear fucking talking bullshit about fucking Ali's daughter, because you're literally calling out a woman who's been retired for 18 years, because that's how irrelevant your boxing career is. Your boxing career is so irrelevant, you're calling out a 50-year-old woman. 50. That's like fucking Devin Haney calling me out. I mean, I know I'm not Ali's daughter and I wasn't a world champion, but it's cringe. That's the point. Like, what would be the point of a professional boxer calling out a fucking old man? It ain't a good look. And you being the GOAT calling out a woman who's been retired almost 20 years, it's pathetic. Pathetic. But that's Clarissa Shields. She's pathetic. Listen to that woman and the things she says. How could you like her? Like, you like Tank Davis if you like Clarissa, because that's what you like. Hood culture. You like people that beat women, and you like women that are fucking rough around the edges, because that's exactly what you're getting from fucking Tank and Clarissa. And if that's what you like, who am I to question you? You can like what you want, but it's not marketable. It's not going to fucking sell to fucking the general public. Both in prime at 168, Canelo versus Calzaghe. Well, we talked about this yesterday a little bit. Honestly, who do you think would have won in their primes, Clarissa or Laila Ali? Probably Clarissa. When Laila Ali was fighting, the level of boxing was far more rudimentary than it is now. Clarissa Shields has been a long-term amateur. Laila Ali didn't have much amateur pedigree. Mostly fought in the pros, fought in a generation that didn't have a lot of competition either. Her best opponent was when she fought the coal miner's daughter, who was from fucking, 3 fucking divisions below her, maybe more, right? And they just made a movie about her right now that's on TV. So go check it out. Give some love to old women's boxing. But yeah, probably Clarissa Shields would win. She's a very good boxer with very good hand speed. But Laila Ali was a much more exciting fighter. She had knockout power, something Clarissa Shields and Devin Haney will never have. So Calzaghe versus Canelo in their prime. I would probably lean towards Calzaghe to win a boring decision. Probably would be a split or majority decision based on the fact that Calzaghe would have to come to the U.S. to fight Canelo. So it would be Canelo's home base with all his judges and fans. But, obviously we know that Canelo Alvarez struggles with movers early on versus Plant, early on versus Billy Joe Saunders. He struggled with both of them as well. Ended up breaking them down as the fight progressed. Struggled with Laura early on. Eventually broke him down. Ended up beating him as the fight progressed. So I would expect the naturally bigger fighter in Joe Calzaghe with the height, the foot speed, the hand speed, the reach to beat Canelo Alvarez. But to be fair, Canelo is dangerous, probably more dangerous in his prime than anybody Joe Calzaghe fought, right? Who's the prime fighter that Calzaghe fought? Calzaghe didn't beat any fucking prime fighters. Eubank was past his prime. B-Hop was past his prime. Roy Jones was way past his prime. The only prime fighter he beat was fucking the guy from Florida, who you can't compare to Canelo Alvarez because that dude never did anything. Canelo KO round 1. Well, even if Canelo was to win, it definitely wouldn't be a first round knockout. It would potentially be a late round knockout because body punches would eventually slow Joe down, and then Canelo would eventually land those big counter punches like he did with Plant and Billy Joe Saunders. But put it in context. Do you think Calzaghe is a better fighter than Caleb Plant and Billy Joe Saunders? Right? So I give Calzaghe the benefit of the doubt. But in reality, we've seen, yes, Jeff Lacy. Who the fuck is Jeff Lacy? You say yes, yes, and yes, but based on what? Again, feelings over facts. Like Calzaghe didn't do anything. He was a domestic UK fighter. That's what he was. Until he fought Jeff Lacy, who he brought to fucking the UK. Because Jeff Lacy wasn't that fucking American, right? He fought Roy Jones years after Roy Jones was fucking good. And he fought B-Hop years after he was good. He even fought Eubank after he was good. So literally he didn't fucking beat anybody in his prime. Like you couldn't name any fucking top level fighters on Joe Calzaghe's resume, except maybe you could say Kessler. But who the fuck is Kessler? Like people keep pulling out Kessler's name, but when you look at Kessler's resume, you couldn't tell me one fighter Kessler fought before he was cherry picked by fucking Calzaghe. And because he lost to Calzaghe when he went to the Super 6, now he had some name recognition after getting beat by Calzaghe. But, what did that guy do? Who did he beat? What did he do? Come on. Let's check it out. So I jump into my rankings. I got to think of somebody that fought somebody legitimate. Okay, I got who? Canelo. There we go. Sorry. 6 degrees of separation. I love that Hopkins win. Oh my God. You just like the white guy beating Hopkins? Racist. Where is Kovalev? Kovalev. There you are. So we jump to Kovalev. Then we jump to B-Hop. Oh, BoxRec. Every fucking time kicks me out. Does BoxRec do that to you guys too? Every time you're on it, it kicks you out. It makes you fucking resubscribe or re-sign in. It's a pain in my balls, man. Let me tell you. I signed in. Why do I need to sign in fucking again? Now I got to go back and do all that shit again. Oh, if I was a Muslim terrorist, I'd blow up fucking BoxRec. I'm not saying for Muslim terrorists to go out and blow up BoxRec, but if you did, I wouldn't be angry. Kessler beat Froch. That's big time. But then again, who's Carl Froch? Yes, if you look up more than 3 fights in one day, it locks me out. Yeah. What the fuck, man? Like, I don't see the sense. Why I need to keep signing in every fucking time? I guess if you pay money to join BoxRec, then you won't have to deal with that. Maybe if BoxRec wasn't so shit, people would. I don't despise Muslims. I have no problem with Muslims. I have problems with radical Muslims, people that are unaccepting of other people and other religions, people that want to close down Christmas. Why do you move to a Christian country and then fucking moan about Christmas? Go fuck yourself. When I go to Muslim places and they play the music all day, I didn't complain. I thought it was quaint. I liked it. I wasn't moaning and groaning that it was waking me up and fucking I didn't like the music because I preferred to listen to Pink Floyd. Right? I didn't moan and groan about it. I was in a Muslim country, so I listened to fucking Muslim music 5 times a day. And okay, you move to a Christian country, shut the fuck up. There's Christmas trees, there's Christmas celebrations, there's fucking Christmas. They should stay in their own country, be with people that think the same. Exactly. That's it. The reason they leave their countries is because their countries are shitholes because they're controlled by Muslims. So now you want to bring your shithole mentality to good countries and make them shitholes. Like, how does that make sense? We want you to move to our country, change your perspective so you don't turn it into a shithole. You can add good to it, not take it fucking away. Would you categorize Bill Haney as a radical Muslim? Oh, he's a black American Muslim. Those guys are fucking radical anti-Americans. Anti-Americans. Bill Haney got BFTB to become a Muslim. Yeah, that's because BFTB fucking spent time in jail. You notice all the fucking black Muslims in America that fucking become Muslims all fucking were in the joint. How does that make sense, right? And obviously I'm generalizing, but there's a lot of truth in what I said. So, okay, I got him. Here's Joe Calzaghe. Bum, bum, bum. Joe Calzaghe. A face you'd love to punch. 46-0, 32 knockouts, 5'11". So we go to the early part of his career. Pat Lawler. He beat was 21-8. We know Pat Lawler because an old fucking washed up Durant fought him. And that was late in his career in 1996. And then 97 he fought Chris Eubank, who was 45-2-2. Having fought Ben, Collins, right? And then fought Calzaghe in 97. Got beat by him and then lost 2 fights to Carl Thompson and retired. The end of his career. Your best win was against a guy who was at the end of his fucking career. Retired the next year after losing 2 fights to Carl Thompson. So you're as good as Carl Thompson. Congratulations. You know, that's Calzaghe's level. Carl fucking Thompson. Now, can Canelo Alvarez beat Carl Thompson? Fucking sure as hell he can. Sean, I bet you would have loved it in Minnesota. No, I don't know if I'd love the music and snow. I don't know if that's a good combination. When I was listening to music, it was Thailand. I was on the beach. It worked out. Do you consider Calzaghe and his pops the best father-son duo ever since? Fuck no. Oh my God. And who even thinks Mayweather and his father are the best? Mayweather didn't even spend most of his career training with his father. He spent most of his career training with his uncle. So let's get that straight. So there's no father-son fucking team. There's father-uncle team. Come on. Bullshit. So I just proved the Eubank win was fucking garbage. Now let's see what other fucking great win Calzaghe has. Then you fought 14-1, nobody. 51-8-3, nobody. And then you fought Robin Reed in 99. Robin fucking Reed. If you guys are old like me, you remember Robin Reed. He was a hyped up UK domestic fighter. who, you know, had already lost to fucking Delaney Malinga 41-10. So you already lost to a guy with 10 fucking losses. Then you fought Calzaghe and you got beat by split decision. Oh my God. What a monster Calzaghe is. Then he lost to a 39-4-2 Italian guy. Lost to Sven Aki. Right? Sven Aki also retired undefeated. How come nobody says that Sven Aki would beat fucking Canelo Alvarez? What's Sven Aki's resume? Look, nobody ever says great things about him. Retired at 34-0. Sven Aki, the best fucking German fighter in history. Do you think Norman can beat Haney for upset? I don't think so. That loss to Eubank was the IBH Steve Collins. Remember, Eubank won 4 of his last 5 fights going into the Joe fight. Calzaghe was only 25 in that fight. But he hadn't fought anyone. I just showed you. Come on. Sean, does Laura put a bow on the Hall of Fame career with Janibek win? For sure he does. Yeah. If he's able to beat fucking Janibek, that shit totally solidifies his career as a Hall of Famer. Far more than fucking the guy he just beat in Danny fucking Garcia. So how else did this guy fight? So then he lost to Sven Aki, got knocked out by Jeff Lacey, who then went on to get beat by Calzaghe, and then he got knocked out in 5 rounds by Carl Froch. So Carl Froch knocked him out. Calzaghe struggled with him. That's why Carl Froch always wanted that fight. Carl Froch said he would have destroyed Calzaghe. So if Carl Froch could destroy Calzaghe, then you got to think that Canelo Alvarez would destroy him as well. Laura Rob Blind in Atlantic City. Oh, yes, versus fucking Williams. Robbery. That was a terrible robbery. Then what? Robin Reed, then a bunch of other guys, Omar Shika, Richie Woodhull, blah, 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 Brewer, Sam Jimenez, Brian Mitchell. Brian Mitchell, good South African fighter. Wasn't he South African? Ended up with 11 losses. Oh, no, so he's American. Why did I think he's South African? Had just lost to Sven Aki. So, I mean, if that's a great win for Calzaghe, then Sven Aki should be a Hall of Famer as well. Sean, is Taiwan a right to carry country? Fuck no. No guns in Taiwan. No guns in Taiwan. Even gangsters don't carry guns. They got fucking baseball bats in the trunk. They roll up with 4 cars full of gangsters. They roll with baseball bats, just like the movies you watch about Asian gangsters. And then they roll up on each other and fucking beat the shit out of each other with baseball bats. Not to say there's not guns, because if you're gangsters, there's ways to get guns into the country. There was a gangster head guy in Taichung that got shot while having dinner with the police captain of Taichung at a restaurant that all the foreigners used to eat at. That was quite the big thing. Taipei police ended up moving down to Taichung to take over the precinct because, the connection with gangsters in Taichung. So there's guns around, but yeah, you never see fucking guns. Even the Aboriginals in the mountains, they got kind of homemade guns historically that they made for hunting. But even nowadays, they don't even do too much hunting. When I was just down south in the beach during my summer vacation, you might have saw my videos. I saw more monkeys and more deer than I've ever seen in Taiwan. So it shows you the Aboriginals are no longer really doing what Aboriginals once did. Before, there was no fucking animals in Taiwan. They'd eaten them all. So, I never saw a deer until this summer. Like, I saw them in zoos or in cages at petting farms, but I've never seen them in the wild. Monkeys, yes, monkeys are around, but deers, never. But, yeah, that's the end of it. Thanks, everyone, for jumping on. We've been on for 2 hours. Obviously, tonight we have the big Eubank Ben fight. I'm probably going to be sleeping through that, so I'll probably see you later in the day when I wake up. to watch the card out of Mexico and to see what the result was, and then we can chop it up then. But peace out. Have a good weekend, everyone, and I will see you next time.